about why is alcohol the worst drug in society. Um, the question is, what is? We're talking about the present, the state of things now, the way they are, reality, not what could be or what might be or what would be under certain circumstances. We only can look at what is, right? I mean, there's plenty of scope for us to look at things like what would happen if all the drugs in the world were legal, for instance, or if certain drugs were legal, like heroin or cocaine or things like that, or what are the consequences of marijuana being made legal, right? So I think that's something that we could look at, but that's another video, right? This one, I think, is much to do with perception, acceptance, normality. Those are three things that create a certain atmosphere, a certain perception in the world about alcohol. It's easy to get a hold of. It's legal. It's cheap in most cases. It's normalized. And I think alcohol blows all the other drugs out of the water in terms of deaths, in terms of harms to the individual, and in terms of harms to society, right? This is not going to be a great long video, but I just want to show you a couple of things in this. This is a study that was brought out in, let me just have a check here, November the 1st, 2010. Wow, it's a bit old now at this stage. You can download this. I'll leave the link down below for this, but there's a couple of slides that I wanted to show you just to the basically what this guy is doing, David Nutt and his colleagues, David J. Nutt, Leslie King, Lawrence Phillips, on behalf of the Independent Scientific Committee on Drugs. So you can have a look at this paper. It's a fairly good, detailed, some good methods. But I wanted to show you a couple of slides now. That basically what they're doing here is they're looking at harms to the individual, which is in blue, and harms to others, or harms to society in general. And you can see that when they put the two of them together, alcohol is by far the worst drug. It's above heroin, it's above crack cocaine, it's above methamphetamines, cocaine, tobacco, even though you can see that the harm to the individual is probably greater in heroin and methamphetamines and crack cocaine. Okay, but I'll show you a different slide and put things into context here. So on the bottom here, we've got the score for harms to users. And I think alcohol here is about the mid-50s. And these three drugs are up here, 70 plus, and almost 80 for crack cocaine. So it's fairly bad. But then when you put into the harms to others, the harms to society, alcohol is by far the greatest harm. It has the greatest harm of all. So, as always here, I always want to point out that you've only got one life. You've only got one way of, there's only one direction that your life is going, right? And it doesn't matter what society is doing in general. You have to always say to yourself, look at yourself from your own perspective. What is in your best interest? Because if you don't do what's in your best interests, then if everybody did that, the world would go to hell very quickly. So you really have to look at what's in your best interest and trying to grow yourself. If you can grow yourself that way, then you grow other people. We need more and more and more people who are showing a real positive, a positive outlook on life, a positive something that we can emulate, that is not money based or based around things that you can get in life, but based around real, true values. So ask yourself, what are you going to do in your life? What is the best thing for you? Is the best thing to keep spilling this crap poison down your throat, or to look at better alternatives, much, much better alternatives? If you want any chance of changing yourself and living to that best possible version of yourself, I mean, Habits V2 is about the second version of yourself. The V2 in Habits V2 is version 2. You have to change your perception, and that's all in your control. In Habits V2, we talk a lot about the 4Ps, which are perception, perseverance, positivity, and patience. And all of those things combine in order to move you forwards, onwards, and upwards.